Call to order the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission on this 11th day of April 2023. May I have a roll call?
Mr. Hopper.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Moe.
Here.
Mr. Hooper.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Present.
And let it show for the record that the non-voting advisor, Mr. Alexander, is absent.
We have a quorum and we are all present, accounted for in the room. Is there a motion to approve our minutes from our March 14th? So moved. Second. By Mr. Campbell, second by Mr. Hoover. Any discussion, deletion, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion approved 5-0. Stop me if any of this is wrong. No new business, no old business, no capital project reports. So moving on to financial reports. Mr. Stone, the floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone had a nice Easter weekend. Today's agenda, I have two items. One is just the monthly scanning report, and then the one item that we would ask for motion to acknowledge, see, is the annual report of the Redevelopment Commission. So you should have a printed and an electronic copy of this document. This is a required report to the fiscal body from the Redevelopment Commission annually by April 15th. And this report is made available through the State Department of Local Government Finance's online portal referred to as Gateway. So I've worked with this with the Finance Department and RDC Council and some of the information. And as far as the contents of the report, page 2 looks through each of the existing allocation areas as of pay 2022 and notates the established dates, expiration dates each, and whether or not they're original expansion areas, list the active members and the changes throughout the year. Page 3 gets into more of the actual financial sections, summarizes the total revenues and expenditures by area. So note some of these areas have allocation funds and debt bond proceeds funds, etc. And the accounting basis for the Redevelopment Commission is cash basis. So bond proceeds are recognized as financial sources or receipts. Expenditures from bonds are included in the expenditures as well. Okay, so the total revenues on a cash basis across all funds were just shy of $39.1 million. The total expenditures of all funds was just shy of $35 million. Keep in mind that there were disbursements from prior year bond proceeds in 2022, as well as bond proceeds generated in 2022. So all that's considered, all that's rolled into those numbers. And a couple different notes at the bottom. One is there are a few different allocation areas in progress and have been approved. They'll show up in your 2023 report. There was one payment made to the Worsville Road reimbursement based on resolution 2019-19 for the access roads. That was updated. Page 4 shows the fund balances by allocation area. Just as a friendly refresher, so the leftmost column shows the 7 different primary allocation areas, and then within each one, if there's no related debt, then it just has an allocation fund, and that essentially acts as its surplus fund. All the increment is surplus. If there are related debts of an allocation area, then it has the allocation area, which is where the initial distribution of TIF is received from the county, and then there's special purpose funds set up for the administration of the debt. At the end of 2022, there were $32,218,241 of cash and investments across all the allocation areas and funds, and $9,672,970 of that were earmarked as surplus or unrestricted to the Redevelopment Commission. Page 5 is the outstanding debt report. So it's updated. There's in Gateway, there's a process whereby they calculate the obligation allocations with all future principal and interest. We've included the principal outstanding amounts as well as of 12/31/2022. So the total amount outstanding for redevelopment debt is 78,636,000 even in principal. The majority of that debt is long-term fixed rate between 2% and 3% tax exempt interest rates. The last couple pages are actually coverage calculations relative to allocation areas that have related debt. So these are all in the same order. The first one here is Fry Road US 31. It has a 2023 projected coverage of 143.6%. The next page is the central expansion. It currently has a forward coverage of 331%. I would also like to put on record that the central with the Madison project, as of 12/31, both the bond anticipation note and the subordinate economic development Madison bond were both fully recognized on the balance sheet, but the project is still well under construction. So from a coverage standpoint, we expect that to improve because you have all the debt service, with none of the increment currently actually in the revenues. So those will actually improve as that project is assessed. As of last week, we got the initial preliminary assessments on the Madison project as well. So you'll start to see TIF into the central K24 for that project. The last area is East Side, and it is at 2023 forward coverage is just over 170%. And for benchmarking, the S&P highest rating criteria on coverage is 160%. So anything at or above that gets the max score on S&P ratings. I know there's a lot of information on that. This is all the requirements relative to the statute and required information for Gateway. We worked with Mr. Harris based on your motion at the last meeting. He has reviewed this as well as RDC president and RDC council. So happy to answer any questions that you may have. Otherwise, if it's in acceptable form to you, we just ask for acknowledgement and motion to proceed with uploading this to Gateway prior to the 15th.
Questions for Adam?
Hey, this has to do with cash investment. So we've all seen the hit taken on the market. Does that impact our investments on the RDC side?
No, we are limited in what we can invest in to pretty much either CDs or T-bills or nothing that has any risk behind it. So
Okay.
We haven't had any kind of hits on those. In fact, with the way that interest rates have gone, it's actually benefited us quite a bit on investments just because we are in those kind of safety areas.
Good. Okay. Thanks.
Well, so my question is more, this report says we're $78 million in debt, not $250 million in debt, which is what the public is being told that we are in debt. So I assume that $78 million figure is correct. The $250 million.
Yeah, from the RDC perspective, the 78 million is correct. It is the same number that's reported in the city's comprehensive annual audited financials as well.
And then, not to put you on the spot, but most people wouldn't if they hear 78 million, they still probably think that's a lot of money. But in terms, you don't have to do it right now. Maybe you can do it back on the napkin while we're talking. But like, if we were to take out a mortgage for a house and we have $78 million in debt and we make $1 million a year, let's say, if I'm an employee, I make $1 million a year and I only have $150,000 mortgage, I can cover that easily. That's no problem. Like, put it in layman's terms that they might understand.
And so what I would recommend is ratios, okay? Because that's what can be consistent over time, and it helps bring the numbers down to normal, levels. So in K 2023, there's approximately $670 million of incremental values in the redevelopment commission. 670 million, so nearly $750 million. So $70-some million in debt is approximately 12% of that. So if you had someone that, so that same 12% ratio, if you had someone who made $100,000 per year household income, that would be a mortgage of $12,000. Okay, so I would just suggest looking at it that way. I would also add that a lot of the growth in the, there's a lot of abated growth in the redevelopment district as well, to the tune of about $200 million. So that 669 number is net those. So the actual gross AV that is eventually coming due is closer to 870 million, and that's in current dollars. So I hope that helps give you a frame of reference.
Adam, how does that compare to what it was 10 years ago?
It's actually lower now as a percent of net assessed value than it was 10 years ago.
It'd be helpful to also recognize that there are no residential properties paid into those debt service items. It's all commercial and industrial property.
If I may, just to add, piggyback, coming from the school board perspective, which has a fraction of the city budget. In my last term, we had 40 million roll off and roll right back on with a brand new middle school and a new student activity center. It is not uncommon to carry, I mean, that is a minimal debt carry, but when you talk about the coverage ratios, as you did before, and the position that we're in related to the debt, it's just a comparable item, and you look at those two things, and the school district carries that kind of debt easily with a very restricted budget. That's a fraction of what the city works with and the redevelopment commission. So I think it's safe to say that.
Is there a motion to file this? Is that essentially what it is, to approve and file the DOTF? Yeah.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Hoover, second by Mr. Moe. Any comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion.
Thank you all very much. Have a nice
Thanks,
night.
Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Anything from the corporation council, Mr. Watson?
No.
Mr. Watson?
One thing I have is an update from Beerus regarding their annual report. They did, as they told us they would, provide us a supplemental report, CF1 filing, which indicates that they have current employees in an amount of 115 and salaries of approximately 1.7 million on that facility.
More or less than what they promised. I'm sure that's more. Okay.
I haven't reviewed that, but I'm fairly confident that that's more.
Okay. Mr. Wright?
Nothing for me.
Mr. St. John?
Good afternoon. I'm here to represent a change order to you, change order 18 from Worsville Road Section 3. You previously approved this at your June 14th, 2022 meeting. NDOT invoiced us for our share of it back in November or December. And when I was adding up the numbers, they didn't add up to the amount on the change order. There was a unit price difference on one of the items on it was a modular block wall item. It was listed in the original change order at $66.34, and the correct amount was $68.34. That increased the cost of this change order by $480. Then there was also an overrun of some of the stone on this change order by $601, which they also invoiced us for. So overall, this invoice is increasing by $1,081, and I wanted to bring it back for you because it's different than what you had previously approved.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Moe, second. Second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor, aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you.
Hey, on that subject, so I know at the bank where I work, we allow some allowances to come back to RDC for $1,000 seems, I mean, it's probably a lot of work for you because you got to change everything, right? So I was just wondering, is there something we can do to permit an allowance if it's over or under so that,
The minimus amount.
yeah, it just seems silly to have you put forth all that paperwork for.
Yeah, and I will say at $601 I mentioned, that doesn't even require a new change order on it. It's just within a certain percentage. They just let us tack it on to the other change order. So in a similar fashion, it already does that.
Yeah, I think the bank has a rule of, we have a bucket, it's like 1%, depending on the dollar amount, but it just seems.
What is this? What is the stakes?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Let's have the lawyers look at it.
I can tell you that several years ago, a similar motion and delegation of authority was granted. Check the minutes and so forth, to see
So it
exactly.
might already be out there somewhere.
Yeah.
No, we appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't mean to waste your time. I just don't want to.
No, no, no.
No, you're doing the right thing.
We love seeing you.
Yeah, sure time.
All right. Anything from the mayor's office? None. Is there a motion to approve our claims docket in the amount of $1,384,664.97? Mr. Hoover, second by Mr. King. Any questions from anybody? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion approved 5-0. Anybody else on the internet or in the room have anything for us? Be adjourned.